So gating and guarding yourself like that, I don't want to build tools to encourage that.
That's right. That's right, and that's one of the concepts and one of the reasons why I'm doing this research is because I find more and more that the differences in our languages and our cultures are creating these gates, and not necessarily between communities, but between neighbors themselves, from one house to another. So how to bridge that?
Yeah, I mean, when we were chatting at dinner last night, I found it interesting that you were talking about this disconnectedness in a place like Washington, and I thought, why in a place where there is the crime isn't nearly the same as a place like Johannesburg? Because in Johannesburg, I mean, it's well known to be an extremely violent city, and there's enormous crime, and everybody has got, you know, ludicrously high walls with electric fencing and spikes and dogs, and we live in these bubbles, right? Where well, the 4x4 is this new hazard. But you go from your house, which is one bubble, into your 4x4, which is another bubble. You leave electric gates, and you drive through the streets. You go into underground parking where your offices are. You go up in a lift. You do your work. You go back into your car. You maybe go to a gym, which also has secure parking. If you do go out, you go to a mall, which again is a secure space, and there are no public. There are hardly any public spaces that people actually inhabit because they're dangerous.
Oh wow!
You know,
yeah.
So we're totally fucking disconnected. And it's interesting because the townships, Soweto or Alexandria or places like that, actually do have a sense of community. The white areas tend not to have a community.
Interesting.
And people walk on the pavements. White people in the northern suburbs, in the white areas, they don't walk. And if they do walk, they walk with a gigantic dog. But they tend not to walk on the streets because they're all paranoid. Maybe it is dangerous, but I mean, there's definitely paranoia. So, you know, another interesting kind of irony of apartheid was that in segregating and creating this myth of fear of what the Afrikaans called the swart gevaar, the black threat, the black danger. What we did was we put ourselves into a situation of fear and paranoia and disconnectedness, while the townships, which is where all the black people were moved when they were relocated, also due to survival needs, people, either they couldn't get jobs, or the kind of jobs were so manual that the pay was so low. The men are migrants or itinerant laborers. You have women and families at home, and people are really struggling to survive, so they use each other. So they speak to their neighbors and they say, can you help with this? Can you look after my kids? Is there a lift thing that we can do? Or a psychological support system, like, oh my god, the most terrible thing happened, I need somebody to talk to, I need a shoulder to cry on. So I'm not sure what that has to do with policy, but I mean, certainly it seems like in a modern world, in urban spaces, where the theme of isolationism is a big theme. And I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, Edward Hopper was painting pictures that represented isolationism in urban spaces in, like, I don't know, the 60s or the 70s, right, whenever it was. But you know, the internet and network spaces start offering this really interesting new form of connecting, which is just bizarre when the person's next door to you.
Right.
But I think the point is not to be critical about not speaking to the person next door to you. That's a really unhelpful starting point. And that's the point I was making about begin with the context and understanding the context, or exploring the context, or intervening, which is far more the MO of an artist,
yes,
actually, than government or policy makers. there's far more empathy in that approach, which is meant to be the working method of any UX practitioner, is meant to be empathy, but it certainly is not that of governments.
That's right.
And the bottom-up approach, which is where I think you have a merging of locality and the realities of real geography, this new medium, or these mediums of network digital environments intersecting, and then looking at the act of changing life, improving life, bettering life for people. And it's interesting because these are meant to be the agendas of government, and yet what is implicit, or reading between the lines of your investigation, it's actually ended up coming out from a UX designer.
That's right.
Which is kind of interesting too.
That's true. Well, thank you so much for speaking today and giving us some input on this. I hope to have a really good beginning. I'll do some more interviews, and then we'll all end up talking together and figuring something out.
Yeah, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Cool.